For tonight. If this is your first time, thanks for coming. For those of you that are back, thanks for coming back. Lots of great information to share. For those of you that don't know us, my name is Sean, and this is my wife, Kay. And it is an honor and a privilege, and we're very excited that Keith is willing to open up this church and advertise opportunities like this for our congregation, for our community to come and learn and put a lot of tools in their tool belt when it comes to fighting the darkness that surrounds us, when it comes to human trafficking, the things that lead to human trafficking, and then obviously help us as parents to put some extra tools in our toolbox. And that's our goal tonight. We hope that you'll walk away having learned a lot more than when you stepped into this door in regards to resources you have to help you do the most difficult job you'll ever love, and that is being a parent. Or a grandparent, because this information can be used by both for sure. So we chose to start actually the evening off with a trailer. We've actually never done a trailer in any of our presentations in 9 years that we've been doing this in a presentation, but we feel like what you're about to see encapsulates really well what we're going to talk about tonight, and so we wanted to show this, and it's actually one of the most highly recommended documentaries that we suggest you watch when it comes to understanding the world that your kids are growing up in today, Gen Z, the digital world. So tune in, and we hope that you'll watch the whole thing eventually. And we know if you don't do it in the first week after seeing this, the likelihood of you ever watching it's slim. So try and schedule some time or make time Friday or Saturday night to watch this as a couple and with your kids if they're the age appropriate. All right, so here we go.
Families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas, I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
I have 2 Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat,
and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite.
I can just scroll for hours on end.
11 hours a day.
It's been 8, 9.
Maybe like 12.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while, and then all of a sudden, those kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
The rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
I call it the race to the bottom of the brainstem. So it starts with techniques like pull to refresh.
Pretty much every guy has like an addiction to it, but no one talks about it.
But it's just faster now, and it's younger.
Well, yeah, like nudes of girls go around to school all the time.
At the beginning of the year, there were multiple suicides before school even started.
There were men that wanted to talk to children at all hours of the day and night.
Don't be shy.
On Snapchat, one thought it'd be a funny idea to talk the other one into committing suicide, and she did it. She's dead.
After about 6 weeks, we were able to crack his phone.
Kids right now are going to experience the worst of what we're going through.
I'm a little nervous.
The first for everything.
Do you think your parents know that this happens?
No. My kid won't do that. My kid would never. My kid's school isn't like that. You're wrong.
Because what they see, they feel neurologically compelled to do.
Right now, we're effectively living in an experiment. How is this going to affect us? We'll find out.
Yeah, so lots of great information in that particular documentary, which you saw is called Childhood 2.0. So we do recommend that you spend some time and watch that. It will not be time wasted if you care about wanting to protect your kids and just understand and empathize. Here it was again. I keep doing stuff like this. Hang in there.
And I don't know if you watched that teeny trailer, how many of you are like, that's it, I'm locking my kids up till they're 18. I mean, really, it's scary stuff going on out there. But we are happy to present this to you tonight, hoping that we can, again, like Sean said, just give you suggestions. It's so important that you guys remember that you are uniquely gifted to parent your child. Nobody knows your child as well as you do. God gives you wisdom and insights into the hearts of your children. And so all of these things that we're going to share tonight are suggestions. They're things for your toolbox. They're things for you to take and apply as the Lord directs you. So keep that in mind as we go about.
Yeah. So we want to jump in and talk about the vulnerabilities of youth and the two different categories that kids fall into when it comes to vulnerabilities. I'll talk about the first one, and then Kay will jump in and talk about the second one. The first one being the internal influences when it comes to vulnerabilities of our youth and how easy it is for the world, the digital world that they're living into, and the people, just the environment, can influence them because of what they are just seeking being a human being. Obviously, if you look at like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the most basic human desire is food, sleep, and right up there with that next is the desire to feel needed, to feel loved, to feel important. And if you keep that in mind, that is what kids, we as adults, and kids especially, are searching for. And unfortunately today, because we live in a world where there is much less communication and dialogue happening face-to-face, and even less now because we're all wearing 2 or 3 masks. I'm barely wearing one. But if you're wearing face coverings, it's much harder to communicate and do it in a way that helps you understand the body language and where someone's coming from when you can't see simple facial expressions. I mean, there are many studies you can look at how important it is for a baby to be able to see the facial expressions of the parent as they're growing up. And so because there is very little communication happening, these types of things are being stripped away from our youth today and impacting them negatively in a great way because where they are choosing to go 10, 11, 8, 7 hours a day for their community is online. And I don't think it's, I think in a crowd where it's safe to say that you guys would agree, it's not true relationships, those online relationships, right? They think they are, and for a moment they may feel like they are, but when it comes to these needs that a human being has, are they really being met in a life online? And what we know is that the answer is no. And so kids want to fit in. Obviously, they want to belong. They need to belong, and they often feel misunderstood. So last week, I shared with you part of a statistic. I'm going to share with you the other half of that statistic. So what I shared was the fact that there were studies done like in 2010 and then again in 2019 asking youth of today, so teenagers, how many people are in your life that really know who you are? In 2010, the average teenager answered that with 5. 5 was the answer. There are 5 people in most teenagers' lives that really know who they are. In 2019, when that question was asked of a similar sampling, the answer was 0. So today, most youth, the majority of youth today, feel like they have no one in their life that really knows who they are. How important is it that we are doing everything we can to make sure kids feel like they belong? That's one of the things I love the most about working with youth, working at Youth for Christ, because we have a strategy and a plan on how we go from here, large group setting in what we call campus life, youth group type setting, to small group settings, to one-on-one settings, and taking all those, combining them, and then doing youth activities together, diving in, because our goal is to develop deep, authentic, Christ-sharing relationships with children. And we get to do that, and we see it over on a daily basis, how important it is and how much the kids are just longing for someone to stop and listen to them and show them that they care. If they do have a decent home life, 2 parents at home, if they're fortunate enough to have that, then you take the next step and go to the actual peer group that they're with. How much time are they spending? This past year, how much time have kids spent with their peer groups? Very, very little. So when we're talking about these things, it's easy, and we can confidently say this statement, now more than ever before, it is so important that we understand what they're dealing with and how we can move in as parents, as mentors, as grandparents, as helpers in the church youth group, you name it, as volunteers with mentor organizations in the community, and start to fill those gaps and help kids navigate this world, because it's not going to get easier for them. What we have seen since the adoption of smartphones in 2010 is a constant increase in emotional and psychological issues, mental issues with our students. Suicide rates are going skyrocketing. You heard it mentioned in that documentary. And so we need to be willing to step in, and the information we want to share with you tonight will hopefully arm you with that so that you can feel like you can move in, help other adults that are trying to do this thing we call parenting, but also want to step in to the lives of vulnerable kids today. So, external influence.
All that going on inside, there's creating vulnerabilities. There's so much happening externally. Really how our culture is grooming. Our kids are being groomed by our culture. And those include things like pop culture and marketing. Advertising firms hire researchers and psychologists to create marketing aimed at ages 8 to 11. They're creating advertisements for that age group because kids in that bracket become very committed if they've seen something that they want. So marketing convinces children that they have to have things or be like someone else in order to have value. The messaging is, you aren't pretty unless you look like this, you aren't cool unless you have this, owning this product makes you important. And the vulnerability comes in when children realize they can't afford the things they now think they need in order to have value and beauty, or their parents or caregivers aren't willing or able to purchase for them, and now they feel less than because they don't have the items that make them, that they now desire. And so traffickers really understand that culture, and they're using it to their advantage. Traffickers or even classmates can easily convince a student or a child to sell his or her body simply to get some of those things that they want. Shared Hope International, great deal of our information tonight is coming directly from their trainings. They say many teens have been known to sell themselves for the perfect prom dress or shoes or accessories because they're so after an image that it's giving them a sense of worth and well-being. So marketing also distorts a child's perception of what is necessary, but also of what's right or wrong and what choices can be helpful or harmful. So it's so important for us to help sort of change the narrative or help explain what they're seeing in advertisements, and we're going to be talking about that later. And then we look at music and media. Adolescents are often exposed to sexual content in the media during a developmental period when they're still trying to figure out gender roles, sexual attitudes, sexual behaviors. They're all getting shaped. And the group is particularly at risk because the cognitive skills that allow them to critically analyze messages from the media are still being formed. They just don't have the critical thinking skills. On average, teenage viewers see 143 incidents of sexual behavior on network television at prime time each week, with portrayals of 3 to 4 times as many sexual activities occurring between unmarried partners as between spouses. As much as 80% of all movies shown on network or cable television have sexual content, and about 60% of all music videos portray sexual feelings, impulses, display provocative clothing, sexually suggestive body movements. And one of the greatest problems is that most sexual messages on television are almost universally presented in a positive light. There's very little negative consequences, discussion of potential risks of unprotected sexual intercourse, and just the adverse consequences. They're simply not portrayed. It's a positive thing. It's a normal thing. It's casual sex. Everybody's doing it. That's what you do in relationship. Those are the messages that they're getting. And if you listen to the lyrics of most popular music or watch the music videos for them, you're going to see things that will be extremely shocking and surprising to you. And movements and lyrics, of course, that are super sexualized are then mimicked by our youth. And they're conditioning, all of these are conditioning our children to think that that's normal. And the normalization of a sexually charged culture is really what we're up against. It's really what we're up against. We have to be aware of the subtle and really not so subtle messages that these external influences are giving to our children. And so we really hope that as we continue through this course, you guys will understand the power of communication and talking through and using your voice to speak up, and how much power that has in the lives of youth and in the trajectory of trafficking and sexual abuse and objectification. So here are some examples for you of external influences creating vulnerabilities and normalizing that marketing sex to our kids has had. So this troll doll by Hasbro was created with a button between her legs under her skirt that makes giggling and sighing noises when it's pushed. Okay, because of parent outrage and pushback, this doll was taken down from stores after critics said it promotes pedophilia and child molestation. You think? A spokesperson for Hasbro said, the feature was designed to react when the doll was seated, but we recognize the placement of the sensor could be inappropriate, okay? But it was parent pushback and standing up against that got that doll pulled from the market. More recently, a series of viral videos have called attention to a popular line of dolls called LOL, surprise dolls. When dipped in cold water, the doll's clothing is replaced by lingerie or stripper outfits. So that's the surprise. Again, this doll was pulled from the market because of parent outrage over this. If these were isolated incidents, it would be easy enough, maybe, to write them off as simple mistakes, lapses in judgment, or just mind-boggling lack of awareness. But they're not isolated incidences. They are clearly and unmistakably a trend in the industry, a growing pattern of sexualizing and exploiting children for entertainment. And let's not forget that the toy industry works closely in conjunction with studios to produce these kinds of and profit from children's characters. It takes dozens of corporate decision makers to develop a consumer product from a motion picture. So there's simply no way that these kinds of toys pass through educated designers with the messages unnoticed to be immediately recognized by parents and by consumers. They know what they're doing, and Satan knows what he is doing in this industry. There was a recent search on Amazon. This was my own recent search on Amazon for girls' underwear. I typed in girls' underwear, classic thongs, transparent briefs, and string thong panties for ages 8 years old. All right, so this is just going to show you some of the cultural grooming that we're seeing to normalize a sexually charged culture. Let's look at teens. It's difficult for teens to develop healthy attitudes towards sexuality and body image when much of the advertising to them is filled with impossibly thin, fit, beautiful, and highly sexualized young people. The underlying marketing message is that there's a link between physical beauty and sex appeal, between popularity and success and happiness. So these are just some regular ads that are really geared towards our teens. Fashion marketers such as Calvin Klein, Abercrombie & Fitch, Gucci use provocative marketing campaigns featuring young models, and they're selling more than just clothes and body wash. They're selling adult sexuality. Axe body wash is extremely popular with middle schoolers. But check out this ad. The cleaner you are, the dirtier you can get. And then Abercrombie & Fitch, we know sells is a popular teen clothing line. And check out this top one for PETA. Okay, how ironic that an animal rights organization that protects the rights of animals would showcase a woman as a piece of meat. And notice the messaging in the Axe body wash. The woman's holding a whip. And in Gucci, you can clearly see in those messages that sexual abuse and control must be what women like. Okay? So this is what we're up against. But here's some good news. Many articles lately have been assessing a trend to decrease sexuality in ads. So I hope that's right. They're suggesting that sex just isn't selling as well these days. And actually, sex sales approach is backfiring, as research is showing more and more people are likely to have a negative attitude towards buying brands that are using this kind of messaging. So that's excellent. And that comes again from the corporate voice, okay, the collective voice, I should say, of all of us working together. And another piece of good news is that studies show that while teens receive most of their information about sex from media, magazines, TV, all these things, the majority still say that their parents shape their sexual decisions the most. And so it's still we still have so much influence in our kids' lives despite the narrative that they're constantly up against.
So when it comes to technology being a part of us trying to parent and navigate this terrain and this climate, it is playing a huge role in an increased amount of sexual abuse. Online, obviously we showed you a map last week, and we'll show it again when we do the porn talk on the last of the 4 weeks. The number of files that are being transferred on a daily basis of children under the age of 14 even, just pornographic images going back and forth. And if you take a look at these statistics, an 800% increase in reports of child victims of sex trafficking exploited with the aid of technology. So where kids are, predators go. So that quote, where children play, predators will prey. And an example, that happened to us, Caden was 8, 9 years old at the time. He was playing Roblox, a video game on my mom's tablet, and innocently, an ad popped up in the bottom corner. So I really want to make clear, the ad was a topless woman. And so fortunately, he was on the couch and he was sitting next to one of us, and so we could take that and, talk about it and explain things. And there's a lot more to, talk about in a situation like that. But what's key and what's important to understand is it's not always that our kids are seeking it out when they're 8, 9, and 10 years old. Some do. They are now because they're curious and they're starting to see so much sex just in everyday life, these sexually charged things when it comes to all the stuff Kay's talking about. But the porn industry is spending a lot of money to get in front of our kids as well. So it's not just our kids accidentally coming upon this, looking for it themselves. It's the other side trying to get in front of. So we have two forces working here that we're up against and that we're trying to protect our kids from. And so keep that in mind. The more things you can have in place to protect your kids from what the outside world is trying to do in regards to coming in your home, the better chance you have of protecting them a little bit longer. Because it's not if, ladies and gentlemen. It is not if. Please remember this. It is just when. And so have you had enough conversations with your kids and your grandkids so that when the time does come that they see this, they know who to go to first? They feel safe to go to you. They feel comfortable to go to you. And that this is something, that we've talked about. We knew it was going to happen. And I promised my parents I would talk about it when it does, because it will create in them this feeling that they don't understand and know what to do with. And the thinking part of the brain, it turns off. It's called an amygdala hijack. We are hijacked. The frontal cortex of the brain is turned off. In adults and children, when you're in this extreme stressful situation where you don't know what to do with the information you have, the flight or freeze, and the thinking part of the brain really does turn off. And so they don't know what to do. And we want it to be ingrained in them that when this particular thing happens, this is where you go. So the number of predators online at all times of the day, at any time of the day, 24 hours a day, over 750,000 predators. At all times of the day. This isn't just certain times. And traffickers use the internet to spot victims, to groom them, and to, of course, exploit them. So this next piece is I'm going to actually go back to the Childhood 2.0 documentary and play a 6-minute clip. I'll explain why, and you'll probably gather it as you watch it. So tune in real quick here.
use your computer to communicate.
My Instagram's kind of like a mix. Like, I would say half the people I know and half the people I don't know or like friends of friends.
3/4 of it is probably my friends from like school or acquaintances I know, not just random people off the internet. But there is, of course, that 1/4 that is random people I've never talked to or don't know looking at pictures of me.
When it comes to Tumblr, a lot of people like follow me for my stuff, and that's cool. I like to have them follow me, but also there's sometimes people that I don't know but follow me.
I friend a lot of people. I would just join games.
He just friends random people.
I would just join games for no reason and just go add friend.
Braxton does end up, I'll be in there and he's on the headphones playing Xbox, and I'm like, who are you playing with? And he'll be like, I don't know, some kid.
Have you ever gotten creepy DMs from guys?
Yeah, all the time. Have you been solicited by any creeps online? Like, have you?
Yeah. He was contacted by a stranger on Instagram.
Oh, like I saw your page and like I'm really like,
I'm
interested in like
honey.
sending you money for like in exchange for pictures.
I had people like DM me saying that I'm so beautiful and like he'll buy me whatever I want.
So we at BARC unfortunately detect issues around online child predation very frequently. Last year alone, we escalated 450 online child predators to law enforcement. And so we know that it's a common problem. Unfortunately, we think most parents underestimate the commonality of that problem.
We decided to go undercover as multiple children on social media and post innocuous content to see what would happen. We had to be very intentional with everything we did. We had to create personas. They had to have believable date of births, and we had to know everything about the city that they lived in, and we had to create storylines, and we worked closely with law enforcement.
And basically just pushed go. We put everything live and we documented what happened.
Within the first hour of posting on Libby's accounts, 7 adult men contacted her. By the end of 9 days, that number was 92. The conversations ranged in severity from making sexual comments to sharing and requesting explicit photos and videos to manipulation and threats.
We had to deploy an entire team, around the clock to responding because the rate at which these messages came in was mind-boggling. And of course, when you're dealing with social media and the internet, it's a global thing. It's not just an East Coast thing or a US-based thing. There were men that wanted to talk to children for nefarious purposes at all hours of the day and night.
We tried it with younger personas as well, even an 11-year-old.
We launched our 11-year-old persona online.
It's 4:44 and go. One like from a guy whose profile photo is a penis.
So
let's see.
1 minute and 7 seconds. We have a message request.
Although sorry, 2 more requests just came in. How much time? A minute and 40 seconds?
Yeah.
How
old are you? You go to the profile, you know that is a child. It also says in the profile that the child is in 6th grade.
Another one.
It's just lighting up, like the inbox is just boom, 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 boom.
An incoming video call in less than 5 minutes.
I can't see you. Don't be shy.
They all say don't be shy.
This happens to all types of children. This is not just kids who might be at risk. Oftentimes it's a child who's simply bored in their bedroom at night.
And I cannot tell you how many children I see in their bedrooms on live stream with tons of people just watching them, asking them to do certain things.
When parents allow their kids to have that device in their rooms at night, where are your parents? Then come the grooming question, where are your parents? Are you on an iPhone or are you on an iPad? What school are you? What are you wearing? Oh, your makeup looks so beautiful.
It's not uncommon for grooming behavior to include showing minors
images of pornography to help them to think that that is normal. And then that can be a progression towards engaging them in sexual activity.
Do you want that? Do you want that as a parent, strangers in your child's room while you're sleeping? Would you leave the door open with a sign that says, my daughter's bedroom is the second one on the left, and then go to bed?
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations.
There are some that are just there for a quick fix. They want to see something.
Any thoughts or comments on that particular small piece of the documentary that you just saw? A few minutes here. I'm sorry? Yeah, it is a little nauseating. Yeah, we do this for a living. And I watch stuff like that and I still get sick to my stomach. Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments? Surprises, maybe, for any of you? Yeah. Remember what I shared with you, the vulnerabilities of kids, the internal, they just want to belong. And so the internet is a great place for kids to go. They think it is a great place for them to go to feel like they belong to certain groups of people. And it's really easy to find a place where you feel like you belong. But predators are there as well. And they cannot see we can't even see a wolf in sheep's clothing. Do you guys know who Glenn Beck is? He's the ultra-conservative radio show host, had his own TV show for a while. And he is very much involved with Operation Underground Railroad, who does stings worldwide and is now moving into the U.S. with mobile units. They have their own SWAT teams. I mean, they're doing incredible work rescuing kids from traffickers. And he had one of his children, a 13-year-old son, who had been online playing video games with a guy. Well, one night, the phone rang, and he has one of the phones in his room because of the nature of his work, where there are many different lights that can light up depending on which line it is. And it rang 2 times, the light came on, and then it stopped ringing. Well, then he heard something in the house. So he gets up out of bed, it's like something's going on here. He gets his gun, first thing he does, because this shouldn't be happening at this time of the night. And he's walking through the house saying, I have a gun. I'm here. I'm going to protect my family. You should tell me who you are, what you're doing here. Well, come to find out, he turns the corner, looks into the living room, and he sees his 13-year-old son on the phone. Well, come to find out, he was on the phone with someone that he had developed a relationship with over the past 6 to 12 months playing video games with. And it had moved to the spot now where his son was trying to, in secrecy, have a relationship and talk to this older gentleman. Glenn Beck, of all people, like you would think his kids would know. He does this for a living as well. So I share that to share with you that it really can, you guys. It can happen to anyone. And so the more often we have conversations with our kids, if they're rolling your eyes at you, perfect. You're not doing it enough. They should be rolling their eyes back and forth like, again, do we have to talk about this? And that's okay. It's okay if they're doing that. But we want to make sure they know that you are the safe place to go. And these types of conversations need to be had because it is only a matter of time. So there are, to bring this all into play and go back to the vulnerabilities and what kids desire, when they feel those feelings, when they feel like they belong, when they feel like someone likes them, when they feel heard and loved, there are chemical releases that happen in the brain. And this is a great slide because it talks about those chemicals and when they're released. Serotonin's released. It's more sensitive to your diet and than any other neurotransmitter. So food. A lot of people get addicted and have food issues because serotonin over time is released over and over and over again, and it can develop food addictions. Oxytocin released during sex, childbirth, and lactation. Endorphins when you work out, free pain-killing drug that can make the body feel amazing. But the one I really want to talk about is dopamine. And in the preview that we showed you at the very beginning, the gentleman from Protect Young Eyes was talking about he worked at Facebook. He was one of the CEOs or the C-level suite people at Facebook. He said what Facebook wants to do, I'm going to go back and forth here because I want you to read this with me. Follow along. The thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them, was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while. And because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever, and that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you more likes and comments. It's a social validation feedback loop, exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. All the social media sites operating in this way, they want you on it more. The more they can keep us and our kids, because we as adults, if we were to admit, some of us in this room are spending too much time on social media ourselves. We are victim to the very same thing that I was talking about, and that is a dopamine release. Every time we get on there and see likes on our post, we go to see how many they are. Every time we get a comment, the phone dings. It's like Pavlov and the dogs in the classical conditioning. Any of you know that with psychology? So Pavlov was a psychologist, and he would ring a bell and then give the dogs food, and they would come and ring the bell. Well, over time, there was no food, but the dogs would come and still salivate just by the ringing of the bell, and there was no food there because he trained the brains. Well, the same thing is happening to us adults and to children because we are becoming addicted because dopamine is released every single time we swipe. Every single time we do it. And dopamine is actually said to have the same chemical reaction in the brain that happens when you take cocaine for the first time. So is it addictive? It is very much addictive. And so we have to make sure we're thinking about how much time our kids are spending online, which, I mean, you're never going to answer that question perfectly. And I bet you would get 50 comments from the 50 people that are in the room on what they think is the best way to go about controlling and how much time our kids and ourselves should be spending, on social media. It's tough, but it's definitely discussions that you don't want to avoid because it's difficult. And it is worth the battle with your children. And, kids do want boundaries. As hard as it may be and as much as they may push you, they really do. They're built for that. Boundaries and guardrails and just setting time limits and certain times a day. And there's great technology that we're going to talk about to help you prevent dopamine from creating an addiction in your 8, 9, and 10-year-old children. It will happen so quickly. And so how long are you going to wait until you get your kid a phone? Some of you are thinking, never. That you probably aren't going to win that battle, but I'll tell you, please wait as long as you can. We messed up with our first two, but our third one, like Caden's like, when am I going to get a phone? I want to talk to my friends on this and that. And this is how they communicate. They're like twisting our arm and then you feel bad, because it's like all the other kids are communicating this way, but my kid's not. So is my kid going to get left out of these activities? Yeah, they are. Our kids are left out of activities because Connor, our oldest, we didn't allow him on Snapchat until last month. And so, yes, there were activities and things happening that he was not invited to that he would have had he been on Snapchat. So this is what we're up against, but I want to tell you, wait as long as you possibly can to get your kid a phone. And it is a battle. If you have younger kids that are growing up, I'm telling you, for those of you that have teenagers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm preaching to the choir. But the sooner you give them that phone, the sooner this dopamine starts taking over, and addictions happen very, very fast when it comes to social media. So keep that in mind as you're learning tonight and as you are trying to navigate this terrain with your kids, especially if you're in a space coming up soon where they will be needing and or wanting a smartphone, all right?
I would say, just to add on to that, not only is the dopamine released with the likes, but what is happening to our kids when they do not get likes is just as damaging. In fact, it's quite scary because they're seeking this so much and they want it so much. Trying to chase likes and gain clout has caused teens to do some drastic things, and it's wreaking havoc on their identities and self-esteem. Studies show that teenagers who receive few likes during a standardized social media interaction felt more strongly rejected and reported more negative thoughts about themselves, and it does actually spiral into suicide by feeling so much rejection, or anorexia or bulimia or whatever it is that they feel. I would get more likes if. And the fact that I'm not getting likes, we know of girls and, well, guys too, but girls who won't ever wear that outfit again because it didn't get over 100 likes. So it's just we're just allowing people, teens are allowing that to tell them who they are.
Yeah, so let's combat that with the church, us telling our kids where to find their true value and worth. And just tell them over and over again, it's Jesus. It's about your relationship with him, and ultimately he is who you want to please with everything, and keep combating that. And I know that is happening over in that building, but that building only happens so often. How many hours a day are they with other people or with us? And we need to be helping and navigating that conversation as well.
All right, we're going to move into even heavier information. We want to walk through the grooming process that takes place online. If you were at our class last week, we walked through sort of the grooming process of traffickers and more of a person-to-person relationship building thing. How does the grooming process happen online? The next several slides are from Shared Hope International. They tasked a staff member to create an informational tool for parents on apps. They have a lot of amazing information on their website, so highly suggest that you go to sharedhope.org and check that out. But in order to do that, this employee had to download each selected app, create a profile of herself, much like you saw in the 6-minute clip she created a false identity of a 15-year-old girl. And so the following are screenshots that she collected from this time, and several that she came across in just a few minutes within starting some of these apps. So the step one in the grooming process online is that they're going to try to appear familiar. So predators work to appear familiar, and then kids will often give up information, much more personal information online than they intended to. And then predators who are well-versed in how to extract and keep this information use it at different times at a later time. And so predators may be conducting research on the child, looking up their social media app and profiles, and then the child feels like they have a new friend. So you might not be able to read all of these, but the first image there on the left is the predators posing as a girl around the same age the researcher is claiming to be. And so she's just exchanging names. How old are you? Cool. This is me. And maybe using a picture that might even be similar to the researcher's profile picture. The center image, this individual seemed to be more interested in drawing or relating to younger victims. His profile icon pictured a puppy. His screen name was an emoji of a tiger and the word puppy. And this person later asked the researcher to send him a photo of her in her jammies, mirroring the language that a younger child might use. And then on the right, you want to keep your eye on this guy. His name's Neil. He's going to appear in the rest of the process. But he uses questions to try to relate to the researcher, making it very easy to fabricate ways that they could be similar or understand each other. For instance, he would wait for the researcher to say, she's in soccer, and then he would say, oh, I'm in soccer too. Okay, so finding that common ground. So appearing familiar. All right, so the second process is called developing trust. So traffickers will use personal information to develop a sense of trust, a bond between themselves and the potential victims. So they'll appear sympathetic and understanding toward a child regarding a child's problem, act as if they're the only ones who appreciate them or can help them. They will shower their victims with compliments, encouraging emotional dependency, all at the same time while they're preying on the insecurities. They might send gifts, so lots of gifts exchanged online, an electronic gift card for a favorite store, points or V-Bucks in a video game, and they'll deliver it directly to the youth's inbox, and that, which is accessed through a smartphone, so that really creates a bond. You care about the things I care about, willing to actually spend your money on them for me. And then they make statements that'll appeal to the child's needs or vulnerabilities. Again, like in person, or we talked about last week, it really is sort of that sweeping them off their feet. You can trust me, I'm your friend. Let's have a relationship together. And so this is an image. This is still Neil, the same predator from the last slide. He asks the researcher about her fictional, stupid stepdad. She was complaining to him about her parent, and so he was taking advantage of the perceived emotional vulnerability. Why is he so strict? And so she's, well, he always does this, and not pictured in this, he consoles her about her issues with her stepfathers, asks her more questions and sympathizing, and then would say things like, well, no one really understands you like I do. You won't have to be alone. Your life is hard. I can make it better. So again, that I need someone to know me and to hear me is being filled here. All right, then another part of the grooming process online is beginning to erode those boundaries. So this process continues until the sharing becomes sexual in nature, possibly involves compromising photos or something that the predator can use for extortion or blackmail. Do this, or I'll send your photos to your parents. And once there are shared sexual conversations or experiences, there's a connection and a bond that continues to unite the two. So traffickers use this secret sexual conversation to create shame and create a dependence that will lead to more damaging scenarios. So it can start with seemingly innocent conversations, asking about the youth's crush, asking about their dating history, and then slowly and seamlessly moves into talking about the youth's sexual history, preferences, fantasies. And the conversation can look something like this. Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Have you ever had sex? How far have you gone sexually? Do you watch porn? Do you masturbate? Tell me about it. Or they'll send porn. How does that make you feel? And so this again is, I believe it's still Neil. Yep. He's just asked the researcher for a nude photo of her after asking her questions about her dating history, her body, and if she engages in masturbation. And Neil really plays on the trust he's developed between him and the researcher over the past couple days. So he's asking for a nude. You can trust me. I'm one of the good guys. I'm not here to hurt you. And she's like, no, I'd like to wait a little, maybe till I know you better. Is that okay? And he says, of course, but I would love for you to try me. I won't push you hard tonight, but I'd love for you to show. Okay? And then from there, it moves into direct intimidation. So through continued exposure, the predator works to lower the inhibitions of the victim and begins to influence them with threats. Do as I say, or I'll text them to your parents, or post them so that your friends can see. This comes from a book called Renting Lacey. It's also in a program called Chosen that we show in the schools. Lacey was the street name for Stephanie, who's pictured there, and they had images of her being raped the first time, and they were threatening to go get her 10-year-old sister. They were threatening to go beat up her family. They'd taken video of her being raped and threatened that they were going to use video of her having sex with the other men to show to her youth group and to her school. So always these images are blackmail, the girl or boy. We need to remember boys, this is happening to boys just as much. They don't know what to do, so they keep complying. So moves from this trust, they do one sexting sort of thing, which we're going to move into next, and then it becomes direct intimidation, and now we're stuck. From there, it often moves into a trafficking situation. Before that, we're in sextortion, which there's a difference, which I'll talk about now. So sexting is defined as sending someone sexually explicit photographs or messages, whether or not you're aware of your teen sexting, the fact is that many, many teens are doing it. Eye-opening research among 39 studies reveals that 1 in 4 teens admits to sexting. Okay, that's really high statistics. So it's safe to assume there are far more teens sexting who don't admit to it. And many parents are generally unaware of whether or not their teen is a sexter. So some reasons that teens engage in sexting, again, they're seeking attention, they're seeking approval, they're responding to peer pressure, they're responding to bullying, and they want to satisfy some other need that they have. There's great harm in sexting, obviously, but some other harm you may not consider is if the sender or receiver is underage, a sexter can be charged with possessing and or producing child pornography and distribution of child sexual exploitation. For sending and receiving sex, even if both sexters are minors, okay? So definite information we want to get to the teens, how damaging this can be. An underage sexter might also be required to register as a sex offender. So images, messages follow the sender. They can't be deleted once they're sent. And sexting can be used to sexually objectify the sender. So the person receiving the sext might view the sender as a sexual object instead of a person. So those are all sort of risks that can happen. The thing is we have to communicate is the sender of the photo always loses control over the materials once they're sent. So it's always out of your control once you've sent that. And so many tragic stories of children being forced into prostitution or sex trafficking begin with the pimp using sexting as a means of coercion to get the youth to comply with their demands. And then this phenomenon is referred to as sextortion. So that occurs when the blackmail now is used to extort the other person into doing further things. So I've got more information on that, but I feel like we should move on. What the image you're looking at here is just someone came on to a chat room and clearly identified themselves as a minor. I'm new here, it's my first time on this chat. What's it for? And the predator on the other end is for taking nudes, anonymously sending them. So that's what this is for. So we're gonna kind of play you a quick 2-minute video, kind of watching really quickly how that process can play out.
Hi, Zach. Here's another video from my special guy. I can't believe we haven't talked all day. I wish you went to my school or a little closer so we could finally meet.
Hey, kiddo. Dinner in an hour. Don't spend too long on the phone.
Okay, I know you've been waiting for this for a while, so I wanted to give you something special. Is this okay?
Who are you? Why are you doing this?
So lots of examples, obviously, we're sharing with you tonight. Hopefully you're getting a few messages, one being they're really, really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do, and this is what they do all day, many of these predators. So they are very skilled, and we need to combat that with regular conversations with our kids. So when it comes to pornography, because this is usually involved, very shortly into a online relationship, 9 to 11-year-olds, the average age of boys first downloading pornography, and that's just the ones that are downloading it. That's not the ones that have seen it and chosen not to download it yet, have seen it because they've looked for it, and then there's a whole category of those who've seen it and they weren't looking for it. It just popped up like I shared with you on Caden when he was playing that game, so lots. 34% of internet users have been exposed to unwanted porn. It happens all the time. Teenage girls are more likely to actively seek out porn than those 25 plus. They're doing it for a variety of different reasons, whether it's a boyfriend that is introducing it because they want to traffic and exploit them, and they want them to learn how they're supposed to act, or to give them ideas, and this is just what you do when you love someone, and you're going down that road. Or a young girl, junior high girl, girl in early high school, she just wants to know what's expected of her. She wants to know what to do, so kids don't make fun of her. Because if she chooses to do oral sex on a guy, he's talking to the entire football team about it, and where does that end up? Online, everywhere. So cyberbullying is happening. And so she wants to make sure she does this right. And so she's online using porn to teach herself. 64% of young people ages 13 to 24 actively seek out porn weekly or more often. 64%. I would venture to guess, actually, that that's even higher. If you look at the statistics, so you got to come when we do our porn night, because I'm going to give you some startling, incredible statistics to help paint the picture. But just one website alone would make you think, one website would make you think that 64% isn't near high enough. And there are thousands of websites that offer this stuff. The teen porn category has top porn site searches for the last 6 years. I think that's a number of reasons. I think teens, yes, are looking at other teens, but men especially start maybe looking at women their own age, and it quickly spirals, and they get younger and younger and younger and younger to get the same kind of pleasure that they were getting 6 months ago when they started looking at women their own age. So younger and younger kids on pornography videos. Hey, and I just feel like we need to share successes as we're sharing all this dark stuff when we can. And there has been a recent success with the number one porn site out there today, which is Pornhub. I mean, a lot of junior high kids and high school kids in secular schools have Pornhub stickers on their computers or on their water bottles. It's a normal thing to look at porn. And so what happened was people started speaking up about the fact that there are underage, meaning under the age of 18, kids in videos on Pornhub, and it was Visa and American Express both pulled out from allowing their cards to be used on Pornhub. It demolished their business overnight. Unfortunately, they can quickly pick that back up and go down other routes and use different credit cards, but it is a huge step in the right direction, and it's really it's positive for us because we feel like there's still good people out there, and that they do want to do the right things even when a lot of money is involved. Because obviously, if we know millions of people a day are going to one website and utilizing their Visa and American Express cards, Visa and American Express lost a lot of money too. And so they were willing, despite that, to do the right thing. So there are people out there that are choosing to do the right thing. Keep that in mind as you hear a lot of bad stuff, all right?
Okay, we have talked about a lot, and the stories and statistics, they're alarming, it's depressing, they're stomach aching. But the good news is that each of us holds the power to change the numbers, to change the narrative by being educated, decrease the demand for sexual exploitation and the cultural grooming process through awareness, through using our voice. So we've got to stop the problems, spread facts, have hard but very important ongoing conversations with our kids. So for the next several moments, I'm going to dive into sort of age-appropriate conversations. What are some things we can talk to about with our kids at what age level? So the first one is if you have children ages 2 through 6, they're probably not ready for explicit conversations about human trafficking. But educators and parents can begin helping children develop an understanding of their own inherent worth and about the value and care for themselves in every human life. So teach them to respect and care for their bodies. Even at about 18 months, you can be saying phrases like, your body is yours. It's all yours. By 2 to 3.5 years old, they know their bodies belong to them and they can reserve parts of it as private. So children at this stage, they begin caring for themselves. They start brushing their own teeth. They start dressing themselves. They're using the bathroom on their own. So use this time as an opportunity to help children understand that we should care for our bodies. We should treat them with respect. And other people's bodies deserve our respect too. And talk to them during everyday times in your home, everyday situations like bath time and potty time. And you're talking to them about their body during those kinds, it's more normal. It feels more natural. It's a natural conversation rather than forced. Use proper names for body parts. Don't give them cute nicknames. I have to tell you a horrifying story a caseworker told us once. For whatever reason, I try not to judge, their family decided to call a vagina a purse. I don't know. But that's what they let the little girl call it, their purse. It's her purse. And so to her teacher, she would tell her teacher that her uncle always was getting in her purse. And the teacher was like, well, put your purse away, or, no understanding of all of what she was trying to explain to her teacher until parent-teacher conferences came. And the teacher brought it up. It's like, she talks about her uncle getting in her purse all the time, and the mom's life was ruined, okay? Because the mom knew what that communication was. So teach proper names to your children. If you cannot say the word penis or vagina without blushing, you have a long way to go, okay? So we need to be able to talk about these parts, just name them what they are. If they're really young and you want to say girl parts and boy parts, you can, but it's pretty important that we just call it what it is, okay, so that other adults can understand them when they're asking for help. Explain to your kids at this age, our body should never be used to get things that they want. If someone offers you a prize or a candy or a toy, you don't use your body to get those things. Talk about personal space, good touch, bad touch. Make sure children know they always have the right to ask for personal space. They should respect other people's personal space. And if an adult or another child makes them feel uncomfortable, they should tell you as soon as possible. It's good to talk about the swimsuit rule. You can tell a child at this age no one should touch them in the private areas that a swimsuit covers. That's great. It's a great rule to adopt. But research tells us that 65% of sexual encounters with children happen with those who have an ongoing relationship with the child. So stranger danger doesn't always work because predators with a familiar back are doing familiar things like back rubbing or stroking the hair, or having the child sit on their lap to get comfortable with them. So eventually they move into the boundaries of touch, and by inappropriate touch, and by the time the abuser moves into the swimsuit areas, it's almost too late because the grooming process had started so long ago. So be aware of those kinds of things. Train your child they can refuse any touch or space intrusion that makes them feel uncomfortable. Explain to them what safe touch is. We do have some recommended book resources on our table. Please don't buy them or take them. Just take pictures of them and go buy your own. But there's good stuff there. Explain safe touch too, that, and give specific examples if a doctor needs to pull your pants down to give you a shot, or a stranger grabs your arm to get you out of traffic. I mean, there's times when people can touch you, but you need to be comfortable. Empowering them to say no, role play with them, what that looks like, what that sounds like. If someone touched you and you didn't like it, what could you say? let's practice, okay? Say, no, stop it, I don't like that. And go and tell somebody, tell me. So these are conversations we can have really young at these elementary ages. Don't force affection. I'm sorry, Mom. You can't make them sit on Santa's lap because you want a cute picture, okay? Even the child doesn't want to kiss Grandma goodbye or hug Uncle so-and-so because you might not see them again in a while. They're not predators, but if you force hugs and kisses and things that make your kids feel uncomfortable, you really undermine their ability to say no. So you have these hard conversations with your in-laws or your parents and say, if, Renee does not want to give you a hug, that's okay. All right, we're just going to just ask her. So even language sometimes like, come here and give me a hug. Give me a kiss. Give me sugar. Is innocent, but it's just not, it's sending mixed messages to the kids so young. We have to be able to say, can I have a hug? Would you like to give me a hug? Okay, teaching them consent in language so young.
I want to add a little bit to this real quick here. You guys, when we're talking about this, some of it seems like, really? Taking it a little too far. There are manuals online that pedophiles go to that talk about this stuff in detail. These exact things we're sharing with you. They read about them, and they do exactly what they say. It's well taught and well practiced. And so these little things can really make a big difference because the majority of the abuse that happens comes from people they know, usually within their own family. Okay?
Again, these are suggestions. You're not bad if you don't do them. They're just ideas for you to be handling some of combating that narrative of the cultural grooming that we're seeing. Teach them things like fairness and obedience. You can actually just throw the whole slide up because I don't know if I'm even going in order. But, kids know right away, that's not fair, when you're playing. So if they're witnessing something that's unfair, they feel unfairly treated, talk about what happened, address their feelings, reiterate that fairness is one of our core values. It should never be compromised. You might say, it's not fair that Johnny took Maggie's toy truck without asking. It's okay for you to feel mad or sad about it. It's okay that we can talk about that and help them understand that just because sometimes things are unfair, it doesn't give us permission to be cruel and unkind. Explain that while you want your child to be obedient, that there are times they can disobey. Okay, there is times you can disobey. Especially as, you're into the next age, really, but when we're starting to talk about honoring God and what goes against God's word, adults can ask you to do things that are against God's word, and you can disobey them. So giving them that permission. Our family doesn't keep secrets is a good thing. It's a good thing. We do not keep secrets. Happy surprises at best, which can be twisted by a real pervert. So this is a happy surprise. So you have to be careful. But anyone who tells you a secret, I want you to tell me. We don't keep secrets. If someone has asked you to keep a secret, you need to tell me that someone's asked you to keep a secret. Be careful, and a lot of this spills over into the next age group, which I'm about to get to. But be careful of your words when a child comes home from a play date, or if you pick your child up from daycare or something. Instead of asking things, which it's very common, were you a good girl? Did you behave? Did you listen? Were you good today? Instead of asking questions like that, ask, how'd you spend your time? Did anything make you feel sad or uncomfortable? Is there anything you want me to know? Because oftentimes saying things like, were you good and did you listen means, did you do everything that you were told while I was gone? Okay? All right, we better move on to the next age group. I'm moving. Okay. So ages 7 through 12, they have more world experience, abstract thinking skills. They're better able to express themselves than younger children. They're more exposed to upsetting news and online content that could be violent or inappropriate. So provide, again, that safe place for kids in this age group to discuss these things and to affirm them coming to you with questions. This is the age you're going to be talking to them about sex. What is it? If you haven't already, it may seem young to you. If you I mean, when I was growing up, we went on a 12-year-old birthday trip to learn about that stuff. That's just too late now. It's just too late. So you need to back it up. 10 would be a good age, or 9. And start talking to them about how babies are made and where they come from and what sex is, and beginning to understand that process. Again, books on the table to help walk you right through that. So once they're approaching puberty, they're going to start being educated more erroneously by their peers. And so it's really good that you're the first person to be able to talk to them about those things. And continue your conversation on good touch and bad touch. Now, when you're beginning now to introduce the concept of human trafficking, right? Because we want to eventually get to sex trafficking, so it's easier to discuss labor trafficking. So we can now be talking about notions of work and labor trafficking. So as they begin to notice how dad's going to work or mom's going to work and asking when they get a job, you can start talking about labor trafficking, forced labor, explain that people in the world today don't always get to choose their jobs. In school, they're learning about military, branches of service. You can begin introducing the concept of child soldiering. So these are all things we can be talking about as we are trying to move into the fact that slavery still exists, and eventually begin to explain to them, this age, you're trying to keep the positive parts of sex. Sex is a good thing between man and wife. This is how babies are made. But we're going to be moving into how it's being abused, right? So we have to start laying that concept of slavery and being able to them to relate on that. When it comes to media, kids, limit your screen time. In the first one, really commercial-free, very, very little bit amounts of screen time. In this age, consider waiting still for them to have their own device, their own phone, if you've decided that they need one. Discuss the dangers of online grooming. Discuss pictures that they may come across. Keep your computers and your phones in common living areas, and use parental controls. And then the last group, adolescents ages 13 through 18, they are better prepared to discuss complex issues. And if you didn't start early, they may be less willing to open up to you, especially about sensitive topics, but just keep broaching the subject anyway, knowing that the information you share could keep them safe. So you're still talking about, we take our kids, we have conversations about sex all the time, actually, but we take our kids on a trip every 2 years, one-on-one. Renee with me and the boys with Sean. And we take books, and they know that the weekend away with mom and dad, we're going to talk about some stuff. Like, they know. But we also have a lot of fun on our trips away, too. But they know that we're going to dive deeper now. Specifically, I'm taking you away to teach you some things. And so we just keep going more and more so that they know. In fact, just last night, Renee came, or was it this week? Recently, Renee came and said, I'm so glad I learned about this stuff from you. I'm so glad, because I just feel like I know and I'm comfortable. That she had been at a Bible study on relationships, and the topic that night was sex. And she just came home and was like, I'm just so glad that I learned all of this from you. So it's a safe place. And they're hearing so much. All that stuff we talked about in the beginning, they're seeing it, and they're confused, and their friends are doing things, and so you've got to be having these conversations, talking about porn and other addictions. Again, good resources on our table. Let's see. Again, talking to them about the dangers of social media, and then using parental controls. I'm going to have Sean talk to you about a few of our favorite parental controls. There are tons, but these are a few that we really like.
Yeah, so being informed, there are so many great parent resources, and I'm going to share with you some of our favorite. If you are not a part of Access and signed up for what's called the Culture Translator, you guys, go to access.org or .com, I don't know which one it is, and sign up. It's a free newsletter that you're going to get digitally every week. Every one of you in here, if you have kids or grandkids, Gen Z, you will benefit from the information you get from the Culture Translator, and that's from Access. Protect Young Eyes, I'm going to share with you some examples, but follow them on social media because you will get a lot of really great information on social media. They're always posting great blog posts and success stories and whatnot. Shared Hope International, we've already talked about, and then our parent resource page on our own Love to Hope is going to be big time ramped up here as we finish doing the construction on our website. Parental Controls. All right, I'm going to go a little deeper, but I do want to tell you, you can't just have one in your house. If you really want to do justice and protect your kids to the best of your ability, you want two. At a minimum, you want Bark on every device, mobile device that you can. And then for 13 and under with MobiSip, and then for over 13, Boomerang. So you want Bark plus that one, because Bark doesn't do the filtering like MobiSip and Boomerang do. Bark does the monitoring, and they do an incredible job at the monitoring. So I'm going to go back to the Access Culture Translator. So what it does every week is it teaches you what's going on in the world of your teen. It teaches you the slang that your kids are using. You may hear them say things like, what are you talking about? And if you read up on the stuff that the Culture Translator sends you, your kids will be blown away by the conversations you can have with them. Like, how do you know that? You will just be in their world. And so a lot of stuff on what is influencing teens right now. Here's one very, very recent example. How many of you knew who this was during the Super Bowl? Or how many of you didn't know who this was during the Super Bowl? Yeah, a third, almost half of the people in here didn't know. Or how many of you didn't know what the masks meant at the Super Bowl? Yeah, a lot. That's over half there. Many people didn't. Well, the Culture Translator the week prior had sent this to us. So I knew, because I didn't know this guy either. I didn't know the music, and I truly didn't understand what the whole mass thing was, but the Culture Translator, all the details about it. And so when it happened at the Super Bowl, we were having a Super Bowl party at my parents' house, and the kids were watching this, like, oh, that's what this is about, and, be able to have a conversation. This is just one example. The list goes on and on and on. They are on top of it when it comes to the stuff that is right in front of your kids' eyes on a daily basis, okay? Protect Young Eyes, I want to give an example. Now, this is a little older, obviously. You Only Live Once, YOLO, that app. What happened when that came out? It became the #1 downloaded app in the month of May in 2018 or 2019. I don't remember which year it was. Anyway, as soon as the app came out, Protect Young Eyes had a blog post on it explaining what this app was and why it was dangerous for kids. What you need to know as parents, and this is really cool, how to engage in a conversation about it with your kids. Because knowing about it's one thing, and then what am I supposed to say? I don't know how to talk to my kid about this stuff. They give you really great resources. So Access and Protect Young Eyes are two great places to go to stay on top of what is influencing your teens today. Now, Bark, by far, hands down, the best monitoring system on the market today. There's nothing better than this. Here's why. It monitors 24, I believe, social media platforms. It might be 25 now. They may have just added one. All the different social media sites that you see on here, Bark monitors. No one else comes even close to that. And when I say monitoring, it does an incredible job. So here's an example. This is, if there's an issue found, so Bark found an issue on Instagram. There were 7 issues found. This is how many they analyzed. And on Bark, you get to choose your filter level. So if you want a super high filter, you can rate it up high. Then you're going to get 8,000 in a week. But 7 issues is what you're alerted to, the stuff that you really want to know. And then you open it up, and it goes into detail. This is a message she got. You're very mature for 14. I'm 23. Are your parents home? You get exactly what you needed. So my son, because we were traveling for 2 years, made friends with girls all over the country. Good-looking young kid, we're there, and he likes to make people feel good about themselves. So he listens well, and so one girl in Colorado, he continued to talk with, and she was sharing with him online about the fact she was being bullied in school, and her self-confidence was low. Well, I got alerted, and the title was bullying. And so I got to read just a snippet because there are 10,000 pages of text that I'm not going through and my son, but I do want to go through what is important. and Bark tells me what's important because they're monitoring it with their algorithms. And I was able to read, and then I can have the discussion with him first. How do you think we should respond to this? Do you think her parents need to know this? Do you think it's severe enough? And then we can take the next step and share this information with the parents. So you could save another child, not just your own, by what you get on Bark. So if you are grandparents, St. Patrick's Day is the next holiday. Buy this for your grandkids for St. Patrick's Day, all right? Easter is the next one. Then buy Boomerang and Moby Sip. Just keep buying these. And they're not that expensive. I think it's like $80 a year. I'm averaging a year for like 5 devices. It's not super expensive. It's the best investment you can make to help protect your kids. But the list will go on and on the different ways that it'll protect. Now, you look at things like, it's not perfect because we just allowed Connor, 17 years old, maybe we're bad parents, I don't know, to get Snapchat. Like we waited and waited and waited and waited, and we prayed about this. Like, okay, we're going to go ahead and do it. Well, it monitors Snapchat, the language that's shared, but it cannot capture the pictures that are sent. If you don't know about Snapchat, the pictures are sent and then they disappear. So screenshots can be made of pictures when they're sent and saved and then put out on, the black web of pornographic images. And so they really are not deleted. They can be taken and used for nefarious reasons. But when it comes to images, Bark does not tell me if there was an image that was inappropriate. Bummer, right? But it does a lot of other really great things. So I will take all the good on knowing that it's not going to do everything, and then we're going to try and do our part. And Kay probably spends a lot more time than I do. She gets on and looks at the alerts. And you need to make a commitment as a parent to do this on a regular basis, because months can go by and you have 50,000 alerts in your inbox that Bark has sent. And then you go and you take a look and you're like, oh, I wished I would have looked at this a month ago. Wow. This is really detrimental, and some things that you could have prevented or fixed early on, you let pass. So just a couple more minutes and we're done here. So communication is key. We've said that a number of times tonight. We really do hope you guys can feel encouraged and hopefully inspired to feel good about and feel more equipped to have those regular conversations. Kay said it. I want to say it again. We take our kids on trips every 2 years starting at 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. But in between there, we're always talking about sex. We're always talking about trafficking and slavery. We're talking about those really important topics, and it's uncomfortable. I still don't like talking about it with Caden and Connor. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun for me, and I do this for a living. So I know the discomfort that some of you are thinking about right now and the visceral reactions you're having about thinking about having conversations because it's normal. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. We need to step up and have the conversations. And if you want to help and you want to talk through this, we live here. We'd love to have conversations with you guys. If you want to talk this through with you, just invite us to dinner. We really like Applebee's in Greenbelt. I'm just kidding. Does anyone else like going out to eat after the pandemic? Oh my gosh, I'm just ready to get out of the house and go out to eat all the time. So yeah, just communicate, and have those important conversations. And then make sure, it's easy depending on your personality to overreact when you see stuff and hear stuff, especially if you're that personality type that can get blown out of proportion really quickly. When you go into these types of conversations and when you hear these things, that is the worst thing you can do for a kid, because it will instantly turn them off and they will turn the other way and they will never come back to you for this type of thing. So stay calm and be understanding and know that there won't be repercussions regarding these types of topics. Just be honest with me and let's go through this together. I know it's hard. All right, so just keep that going. Affirm their good choices all along the way, obviously. And then, Kay, if you want to finish up real quick.
I think the final and most important thing for us to remember is that as believers, we can do all the things that we can to protect our home, have hard conversations, but ultimately it is the redeeming work of the Holy Spirit in our kids' lives. And their ability to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, to listen and to heed, that is going to heed that still small voice. That's going to be their greatest protection. against this. And praise the Lord that we have it. There's a million verses about how God goes before us, how he protects us, how he guides us. Some of my very favorites are Psalms 32:8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. That is for us and for our children. And this is I'm a homeschooling mom. This is my homeschooling life verse. I will teach all of your children, and they will know great peace, says the Lord. But the Lord is teaching our kids, and they will know peace in their lives. We have to just continue to pray protection over them and ask the Holy Spirit to come alive and active in them. And that is really the greatest thing we can do for our kids. So thank you for your time tonight. We have so much more information, but we have to be done. We've got new stuff. So please come check out the books we recommend. We have some pamphlets that you can take home that covers a lot of the online grooming process, conversations you can have with your kids. Buy a shirt to support our work, and have a great night.
Oh, wait. We have to advertise next week. You got to come back. Labor trafficking is going to be loaded with a lot of good stuff and really cool, great, simple action steps you can take right away to start fighting slavery. Bring kids to that, kids and grandkids, 6 and up. Probably do labor trafficking. I think we said maybe 8 and up. Yeah, so feel free to bring kids next week. And then obviously week 4 will be the talk on pornography and ending the demand. So tell your friends about it. If you felt like this information was useful, the majority of people that have come to us and that have heard us speak is because someone shared information. We will stay as long as we need to tonight to answer questions. So feel free to come on up. God bless you all. Thanks.